Good evening and thank you for joining us for another episode of Business PNG for the year 2015. The 2015 Women's Forum held in Port Moresby recently was a success. The forum discussed key issues affecting the Papua New Guinean women, such as empowering women in SMEs and business literacy. Like the year before, the 2015 Women's Forum, co-hosted by the U.S. Embassy in Port Moresby and the PNG government, provided attendees with an avenue to share resources and information to improve the status of women in the country's societies and improve their livelihoods. The Business PNG team set in on the panel discussions for women in SMEs, with panelists ranging from the commercial banks to the development banks, as well as the different chambers of commerce in the country. But while discussions may spur creative and innovative ideas and motivate and inspire attendees, what action plans have been formulated to actually achieve change? Banks such as the National Development Bank may have launched programs to educate and involve women in the emerging SME sector. But in actuality, are women getting involved in these programs? Have they been educated on the etiquette of business and business literacy? Entrepreneurs, people willing to take the risks and make significant commitments to get a new business off the ground or build on an existing one, are not common enough in Papua New Guinea. For many reasons, not enough Papua New Guineans see running a small business as sufficiently more attractive than working as an employee of a firm or in a public organization. These reasons apply as much to women as they do to men, but there are certain additional factors which makes entrepreneurship an even less attractive or viable option for women.
Well, in Vanimo, we have an increase in business activities for women, mainly because of opportunities that are opened up by the international border and cheaper Asian goods. It's not only women from Vanimo, but also from other provinces that are coming through to buy stuff over there and bring them away. The situation there is that the women are into selling stuff, which they buy cheaply. But there is a problem of saving culture. Women don't really have access to information on skills that they can have to be able to help them to save money, to use it to further their business and develop their businesses. And so these are problems.
Whilst PNG does not have enough entrepreneurs following through on their ideas to set up in business, there are disproportionately even fewer women than men entrepreneurs. Although there has been an encouraging upturn in women running businesses in the past decade or so, much more needs to be done to overcome the specific factors which discourage women, in particular from starting or taking over small firms. Today, women entrepreneurs in the country are only 25% of all entrepreneurs.
I think I left the job, my permanent job, and at an early age just to be a boss of my own. I want to sit down on a boat, to be a boss so I could employ people and give directions like orders to people.
A keynote speaker of the forum, Dame Meg Taylor, a prominent leader herself, leading a regional organization in the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, had this message for inspiring women entrepreneurs.
Policy point of view from the government and for implementation too. Look, I keep coming back to the issues around the social indicators on health and education, on economic development, and particularly I have a strong interest in financial literacy so women can be equipped to look after themselves. But education and health so very important for the women of this country. Our women are resilient and they will find opportunities for themselves, but what we do need to do is to ensure that we have strong, healthy bodies and we've got well-educated women that can educate their families as well, and we educate a nation.
Measures to encourage women to give greater consideration to running small firms and to make it easier for them to do so can take many forms. Different organizations have tackled many different aspects of the problems in a range of ways, but no one organization has all the answers. The Papua New Guinea government believes that the key to economic growth is the development of private sector investment, both domestically and abroad. The SME policy to be tabled in Parliament is one of said measures. A key problem is access to finance. All entrepreneurs find it difficult to find the investors they need to secure their business, and specific measures are needed to make it easier for women to obtain the funding required for business ventures. And whilst legislative action is appropriate in some areas, in others, the main need is to enable women to gain better information.
There are so many different organisations, people who are building their own businesses, but people who are building their own organisations in civil society, people who have established networks for each other. And this forum has given women to strengthen those bonds and to think through issues that they want to explore even more. Now, my statement was one of many that has been there. And I think one of the most important aspects of this has been the panels that we've had on many issues, from government issues to private sector issues to networking issues and legal issues, and this will go on until the forum ends this afternoon.
One of the main initiatives encouraged by the forum is undertaking to support networking amongst women entrepreneurs, amongst potential women entrepreneurs, and amongst government agencies and other support organizations, which can play a role in encouraging women entrepreneurs. Still to come, Number One Super announces a strong financial performance for the year 2014. Number One Super, which is undertaking a transformation exercise, has recently undergone some major changes in the way it is doing business to ensure it continues to provide a high level of service for its contributors. Business PNG had a chat with Number One Super Board Chairman Anthony Smare to gain an insight into what the fund has done, what it is doing, and more importantly, how the fund can continue to achieve results for its contributors.
Despite the relative slowdown in the overall PNG economy in 2014, there has been minimal effect on the performance of Number One Super Limited. Prudent investments in a range of portfolios has enabled the fund's continued positive performance. This, according to Number One Super Board Chairman Anthony Smare, is testament to the tremendous effort by the fund's executive leadership and staff.
Somebody asked me once, what's the difference between Number One Super and NAS Fund? And the difference, I think, is in actual funds, probably $1 billion, because we're $1 billion bigger, Kina bigger. We have our average member balances are a lot bigger. So we're significantly bigger. We also have a portion, if the government paid up for all of its members when they exited, if they were all to exit today, that would increase the asset base of Number One Super by another 2.2 billion. So Number One Super effectively is nearly a 7 billion Kina fund. So we're very big. We'll probably, the issues where we may have lagged is in terms of PR and a more effective engagement strategy. But there's been strategies implemented in the past 12, 18 months by our CEO, Gary, by our chief operations officer and management to increase our engagement with staff. And I think if you now look at the presence we haven't had any disasters. We haven't been in the newspapers for the last couple of years for any reputationally at-risk investments. And it means that we're making good decisions. So I'm very confident in how the fund is going. I'm really happy. I think we're moving in the right direction. For us, it's not a competition between super funds. Our obligation is to our members to ensure that we safeguard and protect their retirement savings, and then we also are there to talk to them, to engage with them if they have questions or needs or things they have to discuss. And that's really our mandate, and I'm very happy with the way we're going.
As of the end of 2014, Number One Super's net asset value stood at 4.6 billion Kina, a growth of 12% from 2013 results. Net profit for the year was 338 million, slightly down from the 2013 result of 410 million Kina. Total fund membership contributions also increased in 2014, which is testament to the efforts of Number One Super to promoting a savings culture for its contributors. With current low world commodity prices affecting the level of economic activity in Papua New Guinea, which in turn may affect revenue, Number One Super has placed 90 million Kina in reserves. This is to help counter unforeseen challenges over the course of 2015.
When you look at a lot of the valuation, a lot of the positive returns of the past 10 years, they look very good numbers, but most of them were really due to increase in valuations rather than increase in cash flow. And we are now changing our strategic asset allocation. As my CEO said, we're trying to increase the amount that, the returns that we're getting from direct returns, through dividends and royalty streams, dividends and rental income and those sort of things, rather than just relying on property valuation increases or share price increases of various companies.
Furthermore, to continue the growth of the fund, Number One Super has made strategic investments which it hopes will ensure sound financial returns for its contributors in 2015.
I'd like Number One Super to have sustained positive results for its members, for sustained results even in good times and bad times, and I'd like to have a more effective engagement strategy with our members, where members in all parts of the country feel that the fund is there to serve them when they have queries, when they have needs, and also that they have confidence that their valuable retirement savings are being well looked after. We've got fantastic management, we've got a really good board. Over the past 18 months, we've overhauled the board. We've brought in some really significant experience. We're the only board with 2 female members. We have the former Chief Financial Officer of Sun Super, a $33 billion Australian superannuation fund. He used to be the CFO for the Bank of Queensland. He sits on our board. We also have a former Vice President of Merrill Lynch, who is recognized as probably the Asia Pacific's region lead expert on investments and risk. He sits on our board. So we have a really good board. Gary Tunstall, who we specifically went out and headhunted, is a very good, experienced CEO. We're now replenishing our management ranks and pushing through talented Papua New Guineans. We're overhauling our investment strategy so that if the economy goes down, we'll be able to smooth out returns for our members. We're making prudent decisions. We're making good decisions. We're basically building a fund that, for people who become members, will be confident that their money will be looked after, that the reputational bad decisions that plagued the superannuation industry in PNG over the last, how many years, that it will not be a feature of this fund going forward. And, sorry? So it's a good time to be with Number One Super? It's a great time to be with Number One Super. I mean, I was, for many years, a NAS fund member, and I'm in the process of moving my savings across to Number One Super. I mean, I'm that confident. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, so.
After the break, our brand new segment, the OBG Corner. Welcome back. In this new segment, aptly called the Oxford Business Group Corner, or simply OBG Corner, editorial manager of the PNG report, Mark Venditti, speaks to Lesieli Taviri of Origin Energy about, amongst other issues, what's new and noteworthy from the company and what her thoughts are on the energy sector in PNG.
Hi there, my name is Marco. This is the Oxford Business Group Corner, or the OBG Corner, and we're going to talk about business, and tonight we'll do that with Lesieli Taviri. He's our first guest for the year, and I would like to ask her several questions about business, about Origin Energy, but first of all I would like to ask you something personal. You are a general manager of a very important international company. You're the chairman of the Business Coalition for Women. You're getting an MBA at the Australian Chiefly Business School, so the first question is, where do you find the time to do all of that?
I have no idea. I surprise myself all the time.
Okay. And you're also a mother too, if we understand.
Yeah, I am. I think I'm very efficient in actual fact, okay. And planning is a big part of my role, I suppose. So I try and plan. I've got this ridiculous timetable, believe it or not, that I'm always doing something. So planning between Monday and Sunday. So yes. I do keep busy, very busy.
But when you think, when women looking at you, I mean, obviously this is a program they want to reach also women and men on the street. When they're looking at you and they're seeing somebody so busy, they're thinking, can I do something like that? Can I ever achieve something like that?
I think that's, I suppose, one of the motivating factors for me also is the biggest challenge I think we have in this country is a limited skill pool. And so when the opportunities kind of come up, you feel kind of obliged and a huge sense of responsibility to take it on. And I think it's part also of motivating the younger generation to kind of step out of your comfort zone and to take ownership of some of these issues and the drive for change and to be able to step up and, you know, just have a spirit of volunteering, I suppose.
Do you feel in a way that you are a role model?
Oh, yes, I do. I have to, and I think, like I said, I think there's need for more role models out there. So I do think I am a role model. Yes.
And once I heard you saying, you know, we are 50% of the population, and we should take also 50% of our resources in a way of what this country has to offer. Do you think that women in PNG are ready for that step? Do you think?
I think they are ready for that step. To be honest, and I think there's a number of things that come into play. I mean, I've always said, you know, are we really ready? Like what you're saying is, are we really ready to settle for half the potential this country has to offer in terms of skill? And I think we're ready because we're a country that has, you know, one of the highest, I suppose, rates of economic boom. And I think, you know, a lot of the resources sector and a lot of sectors are actually booming and we're requiring a lot of, demanding a lot of skill. And I think we need to start looking at developing women who are half of the country's potential in terms of skill. We need to start developing them to be able to step up.
Yes. And in a way, I mean, many people say PNG is not only Port Moresby, PNG is out there. You need to travel to discover this country. And when you do see that women actually have a lot of power when they're back in the villages, decision making not only about householding but much more, and the fact that many society, many cultures in this country are matrilineal, so in a way you do have a history of that. It wouldn't be something completely new, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I think in a lot of cultures where it's matrilineal, it's, I suppose, women are already exposed to that type of leadership in the cultural setting, so it's about carrying that forward into business and making it work in business and complementing business, I suppose. So.
Right, well. Well, let's talk about business. Obviously, Origin is a very important company. You want to tell us what you're doing specifically in PNG. You have, as an institute, as a company, wide experience internationally, but each country has its own problem, obviously. So what would you say is the priority when it comes to the energy sector of Papua New Guinea?
Okay, so I think for me personally, running an energy company, I think energy is critical for social development and economic development. It's a key enabler for people to be able, access to energy is a key enabler for people to have access to, I suppose, provide more opportunities for productive activity. I suppose without energy, how do you expect people not to be productive? So for us as an energy company, Origin is a quarter owned by a local super fund, private super fund, Melanesian Trustee Services, and 3/4 of it is owned by Origin Holdings. And for us is we're looking at opportunities. Traditionally our core business was supplying and delivering liquefied petroleum gas to households and businesses, predominantly for cooking. That's been our traditional business over the last 50 years almost. But now we're looking at, there's so much opportunity out there for other energy solutions as well, because the current energy market is underserved. You look at the coverage that PNG Power has right now, which only reaches about 15%, less than 15% of the country, and you wonder what are other people using. Exactly. So I think the opportunity is there, and as a private entity, we're creating more energy solutions to be able to reach or breach that gap. Not only to expand our business, but also in the greater span of things in terms of, you know, providing essential services for our people.
Absolutely. Would you say in that sense your company is slightly different from, you know, the great big multinationals that are coming here in the extractive industries, and they don't really make a difference at the end of the day to the man on the street and the men and women in the villages, whereas your company has a completely different reach in that sense?
Yeah, I think it has. In particular here in PNG, I mean, Origin Holdings has always been a company that has a very strong social and community kind of obligation agenda as part of our corporate strategy. And I think here in PNG it's more predominant because it is a developing country and the opportunities are immense. So, you know, although we're running a business and returning a profit to our shareholders, it's also about finding purpose in the business as well, and I think there's great purpose in PNG.
Right. One of your slogan is that at the end of the day, making energy is the same thing as making bread and milk and delivering to the people. What do you mean with that exactly?
Absolutely. It's at the end of the day, it is about providing essential services to the consumer at the end of the line, which is the average Papua New Guinean. So, you know, energy is just like any other consumer product. So it's about accessibility, making it affordable to people as well.
Right. So how are you going to reach these people? Because PNG obviously has a specific problem. Its territory is rugged. It's not easy to reach with the normal grid. So you're looking at alternative sources of energy. So what do you think will be the answer? Obviously, solar power is something that I know that you're very involved in it.
Yeah, I believe solar power has great potential in this country, in particular, and it's a good, I suppose, energy model because of the way that the country is kind of, the terrain is kind of structured, where in a lot of provinces and villages you have pockets of villages within a 100-kilometre radius. So having small mini grids, you know, powered by solar, I think is an option that should actually be pursued and is something that we would probably look into in terms of developing a long-term strategy. But in terms of our core business and distribution, we actually work with a lot of small and local businesses who are our dealers, who actually distribute our products out there to the market where there's obviously accessibility in terms of road. So, so a lot of the retailing is actually done by our distributors, or local businesses, most of them, yes.
Yes. Do you feel that this administration is putting enough attention when it comes to renewables and long-term and sustainability when it comes to the energy sector?
No, I don't think so. I think we're a long way away from that. I think partly that problem is also, I suppose, exposure and education into a lot of these new technologies, in particular renewable energy. I think it's still a new concept to Papua New Guinea, and the other thing also is setting up, I suppose, what's critical is, I suppose, the regulatory framework around all of that as well. So.
Okay. What would you like to see in the regulatory framework that could improve the situation?
Well, for starters, I'd actually like to see the energy sector being deregulated in some areas so that we can promote the concept of independent power providers to be able to come in and actually add to the grid. I think that's a great business model because I think our energy needs are more urgent than anything, to be honest.
The government alone cannot do it.
That's right. The government alone cannot do it, and that's where the private sector is standing up, companies like Origin, and saying, you know, we can contribute to that.
There's been an announcement recently that ExxonMobil will be willing to provide a certain amount of feedstock, gas feedstock, and specifically for the Pacific Games. Are you happy to see that sort of development? I mean, to see...
Yeah, I mean, with any kind of investment, the question is always the long-term sustainability of that investment and whether it reaches, I suppose, the greater population. And so whilst there's a lot of focus on Port Moresby, you know, that's only, you know, a certain coverage area of the country. What about the rest of the country where the other, you know, 7 million people actually live?
So we go back to that PNG, it's not only Port Moresby, there is something else out there, and you need to reach it.
I think we need to have a holistic view, and actually it's good that we're supplying, you know, energy to be able to alleviate or help the Port Moresby grid with Kanudi, but, you know, what about all the other locations where we're using thermal energy, and what about accessibility from areas that are off-grid? What are we doing about that?
Do you feel that a master plan is still lacking in that sense?
Yeah, I think it is lacking in that sense. And like I said, I think the need to actually introduce, you know, a cost-effective business model where we could generate and actually deliver electricity or energy to more people is needed.
Without electricity, obviously PNG will stay behind when it comes to socio-economic development. There's no question about that.
There's no question about that. It is a key enabler. Education and education and energy is all. I always say E-square.
They go hand in hand.
Yes.
Yeah. What sort of managerial style do you have when you sit in your office?
I think the energy industry is a very male-dominated industry, and I think you know, as a leader, we all face leadership challenges, no matter what industry that we're in. But especially when it's male-dominated, I think there's extra effort that needs to be put in, especially when you're a woman, to be able to build rapport, you know, with your other male colleagues or with your other male subordinates. So quite often it means moving out of your comfort zone. So I'm not your typical office air conditioning girl, you know, in the aircon type of girl. I'm half of the time I'm in my field uniform out, you know, helping the guys or watching what they do. So I'm very operational as well in that sense.
Hands-on.
Very hands-on, yeah. Have to be.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Is there anything else you would like to add maybe to this discussion that you think it's
No,
very
I don't
important
think
at the
so.
moment? All right then.
But thank you for having me, Marco.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Take care.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, so if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit MTV online at www.mtv.com.pg/business. Or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter at Business PNG using the hashtag Business PNG. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leanne Jarari, and this is Business PNG.